Hello there, I'm Dr. Joel Hunter and I'm an ophthalmologist, and today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about glaucoma. What is it and what is it not? Well, glaucoma is one of the big three buzzwords in ophthalmology. There's really three diseases that everybody's kind of aware of. One is macular degeneration, one of them is cataracts, and then taking up third place, glaucoma. And so I want to start by saying what glaucoma is not. It is not an inevitable problem with the eye, and it should not be equated to macular degeneration or to cataracts. Cataracts are different because they happen to everybody over time. And macular degeneration is different because when you have it, there's progressive visual loss and not a ton that you can do about it outside of some specific types that are more rare. Glaucoma is a disease that, if caught early, the prevention of any visual loss is very, very easy. There are cases where glaucoma is more serious and harder to treat, of course, but for the vast majority, glaucoma is that you take an eye drop or a couple of eye drops in order to keep your pressure under control. So, what does pressure have to do with it? Let's start out by writing out what we're talking about today. Glaucoma can be generally defined as having an intraocular pressure that is too high for your optic nerve. Now, intraocular pressure, in general, we shorten it to the three letters IOP. So IOP is basically pressure that holds the sphere of your eye intact. It's the same as having tire pressure. If you have too little tire pressure, then your tire is very flabby. It'll flop around on the rim. And if you have too much tire pressure, that is damaging as well. Now, luckily, IOP doesn't ever get so high that it, like with a tire, how it can actually pop. That doesn't happen with eyes, thank goodness. But IOP can get too high to be safe for the delicate contents of the inside of your eye. Now, I'm going to draw an eyeball to hopefully explain why that happens. So if you've seen any of these videos before, this is the familiar eyeball that we've got. You got the cornea in the front, the lens, then you have this lens inside that's called the lens. The iris is right here, but what we're going to pay attention to right now is this stuff right here. There is this ciliary body. And what happens with the ciliary body is that it's producing this stuff called aqueous. Aqueous is the fluid that basically keeps our eye pressure regulated. And aqueous gets produced back here, flows around in between your lens and your iris. Now imagine this is all in 360, so it's going all the way around. So it's coming through from all sides, flowing around, and then it leaves right here in this little angle right here. That angle is uncreatively called the angle. Now it's technically the iridocorneal angle, but everyone just calls it the angle. If you've heard of open angle glaucoma or closed angle glaucoma, this is why that matters, because closed angle glaucoma is your iris gets kind of smushed forward and it closes that off. Well, you keep producing all that fluid, the pressure gets enormously high, your eye hurts really bad, it turns red. No one who's ever had an attack of acute closed angle glaucoma has ever wondered if something was wrong. It hurts really bad, and most of the time people throw up. So when you see drug commercials and they say, tell your doctor if you have glaucoma, almost always they're talking about a risk for this closed angle glaucoma. But most people have open angle glaucoma. That's the famous one. So open angle glaucoma means that either you're producing more aqueous than your eye can get rid of effectively, or you're producing a normal amount, but your angle's just kind of closed off. All glaucoma drops treat one or the other. They either make you produce less of this aqueous, or they make the drainage system better. They're almost like a drop form of Drano, but not really, but in the fact that the drain works a little bit better. Don't put Drano in your eye. If you take one thing home from today's video, don't do that. But glaucoma drops make the drain work better. So, when you have open angle glaucoma, that means that your pressure is always a little bit too high. What is too high? It's a good question because there's not really a specific number. There are people that just run a high pressure and it causes no problems at all. You call it ocular hypertension and it just means, hey, you got a high pressure, but you got an optic nerve made out of steel, it doesn't matter. Some people have low pressure glaucoma. Their pressure's normal, even lower than normal, but their optic nerve still can't take it. So in general, if you're looking for a number, it's between 8 and 22 millimeters of mercury. And if you have a pressure in between there, it's very likely that you don't have glaucoma. People that have high pressure, have ocular hypertension, or people that have an optic nerve that looks a little bit worrisome will sometimes say that they're glaucoma suspects and they need to get checked each year to see if they've developed glaucoma. But 95% of the time, 95%, you don't go on to get actual glaucoma. So what's the reason that it's bad to have too much pressure in the eye? Well, your retina, it lines the back of your eye, and it's made of this very delicate neurosensory tissue. The very top layer of the retina is a specific layer called the nerve fiber layer. I remember the first time I was in residency in a clinic and somebody said the NFL, and I only knew about the National Football League. Super confusing, but now you know it's the nerve fiber layer. And the nerve fiber layer, it has one job. Its job is to carry all of the information from your retina to the optic nerve. All over your retina, you've got a bunch of these little ganglion cells, and they line all of this. The ganglion cells make up a whole layer of your retina, but every ganglion cell sends one axon of its neuron to the optic nerve. And all of those ganglion cell axons all traveling in that same layer, that topmost layer, well in this case bottommost, internalmost layer, they all are traveling along the same pathway to make it to the optic nerve, which is why if you were to cut the optic nerve and transect it and look at it this way, it would look like this. Now you can't tell because that was sped up, but that took me 4 months to draw. But that's even just with drawing a few of them. I would guess, I don't know, maybe there's 60 of those that I just drew. In the actual optic nerve, there's 1.2 million of these little axons, and all of them started somewhere here from these ganglion cells. So the ganglion cells each send one, and it all travels into this optic nerve. Well, what happens with glaucoma is that the pressure is a little bit too high and those ganglion cells begin to die. And it typically is the ones that are a little bit more peripheral, the ones that are a little bit more on the outside. Those go first, and then a little bit more internal, and a little bit more internal as you get farther and farther to the back of the eye. Well, all of your sharpest vision is right at the very back of your eye, in the fovea, in the macula. That's where all your really good 20/20 vision is. And so that's why for glaucoma, if you look at the vision loss over time, it's kind of a little bit of rim of loss out here, and then a little bit more of a rim, until you finally, at end stage glaucoma, you're just looking through a little keyhole right in the middle. And the reason that you're looking through a little keyhole is that you've lost all of the ganglion cells all the way around, except for those hardy ones, those ones that are the strongest right in the very middle that carry all that central information. And then the last stage of glaucoma is to lose your vision altogether because those have been snuffed out as well. And the good thing is you really don't have to wait that long. If you feel like you have some sort of peripheral vision loss, you can see an eye doctor, and it's something that's very easy to test with a Humphrey visual field test, named after disgraced candidate Hubert Humphrey. No, not really, it's a different Humphrey, but a Humphrey visual field test is what tells us if you've got peripheral vision loss, and then we know whether or not you need to start a drop. So glaucoma is a disease of too much pressure inside the eye, damaging these ganglion cells. And if you hear that you have an eye that looks like it's got glaucoma, or that you might be a glaucoma suspect, there's no need to fret about that. You just have to find an ophthalmologist that's comfortable treating glaucoma, and usually it can be treated really pretty easily.